Hello everyone, welcome to the Weeb initiative. I'm your host, the Weeb. This is the show where every other week I'll be talking about anime, manga, and everything in between. This week I'll be talking about, following the last few episodes, the 4th season of Symphogear, also known as Senki Zesshou Symphogear AXZ. I don't know why they actually do that with the name, but anyways. So, first off, the stats. Before even that, I think it's better to just say this is the worst of the seasons of the show in maybe its entirety. Really, it's pretty not bad, but at the same time, it's the least well-made one in my opinion, and I have some details to say that based on something. But anyways, before I even start, so the stats, the original airing was in July 2017 through September 2017. It has 13 episodes. And this time, I will not say it has 12, with the last one being a special. Although it may have been at the time, but it does not feel like that. The 12th episode and the 13th are really, really different. They don't feel like the same conflict. Whereas in other seasons, we saw the conflict being one single fight, the fight between the 12th and the 13th being a single one and divided into episodes. This time the 12th episode has one fight and the 13th has kind of another. I'll get to that, but anyways, the studio is still Satellite, and we still have all the girls from the last few seasons. At this point, they wouldn't change anyone anyways. So, let's get to it. As I said before, I think this is the worst of the seasons. And in a way, it's still likable. It is still Symphogear. But it doesn't feel like Symphogear at some points. It's really hard to explain, but first, let's get to the story. So, getting right to it, the events of the 4th season come after, they don't actually say it, but some weeks after the events of the 3rd season. So after Karo was defeated, some weeks later we see the beginning of the 4th season. The 4th season starts with the girls from Song being deployed as support / frontlines to a UN operation in a undisclosed South American country with insurgents. And at some point you would not expect something like that. I don't think you would, because I mean, with weapons so powerful as the Symphogears, I don't think you would use them to confront other humans or anything for that matter, besides the incredible relics and monsters we've seen in other seasons. But that's just my opinion about it. So let's get really to it. So the first episode, we see the girls being deployed to assist the UN, and we go through a few things already. So this one city they go to, it's called Valverde, which is, I don't think it's based off the real city of Valverde. Valverde, I think it is one city in some island. I don't actually remember. seen it once or twice, but I don't remember it. And we then get to see the first, let's say, the first internal conflict. That is the fact that Chris actually had some past with Valverde. Valverde was the city where her parents died, so she has some really hard time being there and getting to the mission, really, because she has this kind of hard memories, some level of PTSD, because she saw her parents die, more or less. And then the first episode is pretty, let's say, pretty messed up in a way that there's no really an order to the things. There's no cause and effect. It's really more sorted out things, like random events. So basically, while the girls are helping the UN, the insurgents come up with really, I would say, a sky carrier for some reason, and for whatever reason they destroy the sky carrier, which you would not expect insurgents to have. Like, come on. And for one reason or another, they find this connection with the organization that will become the main antagonist for the season, the Bavarian Illuminati. And basically that's mostly it. And then we cut to one scene that the guys that generally stay at the desk giving support to the missions, they go to investigate another location completely unrelated to the mission the girls are on. And they find out that there are these three mysterious persons that later will become the kind of villains of the season. They find out these three people trying to recover some kind of artifact from this location they're on. And more or less it becomes we have a chase scene because the three people just activate some kind of thing that summons up a giant serpent. I don't think I can really pronounce its name, so I will just leave it at that. It's a giant serpent. And then they find out that the giant serpent has some kind of invulnerability, even when they try to beat it with the Symphogears, because the girls eventually get to save the guys. But anyways, so then we get the second episode already, and just to encapsulate the whole thing, right? We have two parts to it. We first get presented to the, let's say, the main antagonists of the season. That is the Bavarian Illuminati. The three girls that represent the Bavarian Illuminati are Cagliostro, Prevati, and San German. They are all based on... I think I pronounced it right. Sorry if I didn't. They are based on alchemists that were deemed to have magical powers that were kind of inquisitioned out of existence. I would say it's something. I mean, it's a really, really, really deep reference, but I feel like this is at the very least a good. It shows that there is some research done in making the anime. The Carol in the third season. When we say alchemy in Symphogear, it's more like magic, really. And the Bavarian Illuminati have this kind of, let's say, elemental magic, more or less. And also, I would just put up this point already. Cagliostro is probably, mostly, right, the best character that they have done the entire series. But that's just me, because she has some of the best wordplay in the whole series. I I don't know what to say, really. That's basically it. So the second episode is more or less the introduction of the villains, the fact that they have Alkanoids. So as always, we have noise involved into the whole story, and then we also have a few plot points that get discovered. First is for one reason or another, while the girls are on mission trying to defeat the Bavarian Illuminati in Valverde, they actually encountered one of the girls that took care / lived with Chris in her infancy. So it is the one girl who kind of protect her from the explosion that killed her parents. And there's this whole thing where Chris said some really harsh things when her parents died, and it's a whole that's the whole internal conflict for this first part of the anime. The fact that Chris cannot grow past her mistakes back then, and the fact that in trying to defend the civilians in one of the attacks of the Illuminati, she has to make a choice, basically. And the little brother of this girl named Sonia that lived with her back then, so the brother of the girl she has some hard time with, he's attacked by noise and attacking the leg. So Chris has to make a choice between leaving him to die or let's say emergency putting out the leg, more or less, to save the guy. And yeah, she shoots the leg off to save him. And to be a credit, he survives, which is good. I mean, you would say it's good. I mean, way better to lose a leg than to die, right? So anyways, the whole thing is a whole mess. The second episode is basically just setting up a whole lot of things that will get way more explained later, or maybe not. And then we get to the third episode. The third episode is basically to set the internal conflicts that we all have. And this is the part where it begins to feel a little shooting a lot of things. So first off, for one reason or another, Elf9, since the end of season 3, cannot, for the love of her, get linker, the formula for linkers, right? So Kirika, Shirabe, and Maria cannot fight without linkers, so basically they're invalidated until now. So we are 3 episodes in and they basically cannot fight. And then we get to the second part, where for one reason or another the alchemists come out with a new type of alkanoids that can kind of lock them into a subspace. It's really not good to explain it audibly. It's really more of a show rather than explain kind of deal. But basically they pop the little crystals they have of the alkanoids in the floor, and the girls are basically teleported / locked up in this subspace, and they have to like find this giant invisible alkanoid in the subspace to basically get back to reality. So that's basically it. Episode 4 is basically kind of a development and to show off the real villain of the whole season. So the girls, after leaving Valverde, they have some kind of documents that need some really special coding kind of deal to be made, and so they go to this secret base under a mountain at some faraway prefecture in Japan that has the machines needed to decode it all. And basically there is an attack on this prefecture for one reason or another, And then we get to see the real villain in the middle of this attack. So Cagliostro goes just starts spreading noise everywhere, and whole normal thing of the series at this point. But at some point, and it's good designed because you can see he's a bad guy from the start, but at the same time you can also see that he is the bad guy at the very start. We get to see the director, the leader of the Illuminati, Adam Weishaupt. I don't expect me to say this name right. I don't know German. And the guy just more or less creates a nuclear explosion in the ground, more or less. So he's the final boss, and we can see it from the start. So that's basically it. They get the civilians out. They don't defeat anyone at this point. It's just a battle of attrition because no one is really going to. At this point, the girls are really powerless because the Ignite mode are not really doing any good, because it's kind of an emergency power that they have to use to fight normal noise. So it has become somewhat of a, let's say, power craft by the times. And at this point, if the guy just starts spewing nuclear reactions everywhere, well, we basically lost, right? That's basically episode 4. Episode 5, we get to see some kind of development on the find the linker, find the missing part of the Formula 4 linker. So episode 5, we get to see that F9 comes up with this kind of VR stuff. I think it's inspired by SAO, but maybe not. Maybe it is just an original idea, whatever. So in order to find the formula for linker, F9 has noticed that Maria has this kind of reaction whenever she uses her Symphogear, that kind of the visual effect is that she starts kind of glowing. It's kind of a connection between the Symphogear and the user. It's really not explained. They use a whole lot of guff to try to explain things in this season, especially because later on we get to see the worst explanation for a power-up ever, but I'll get to that. The thing is, eventually F9 notices that and just like tells Maria like, I got this thing where I will observe your thoughts, but we need to enter like virtual reality so I can like enter your brain, more or less. And so for the time, they both sit on chairs and both are out for the most part. F9 enters Maria's brain, and so we get to see the, let's say, the internal thoughts and what makes Maria Maria. That's basically episode 5. Episode 6, we finally get some closure because episode 5 is mostly focused on the fact that we get to see Maria's internal thoughts, Maria's traumas and memories. And episode 6 is more of the closure for that, because we need to find the linker already. Like, it's been half a season already, and come on, man, half of the girls are not fighting. That comes up later, but anyways. So episode 6 is basically F9 finds out what makes linker, and obviously the answer is love, because this is a mahou shoujo anime, when it are not. So love is always the answer, more or less. Altruism, love, you got what I'm saying. And then we get to the second problem. At this point, the alchemists have kind of unveiled their false robes. False robes are the generic term for their armor, their relics, more or less. And it is the Philosopher's Stone. It's not really explained how they come up with the Philosopher's Stone, but they call it the Philosopher's Stone anyways. And for one reason or another, the fact that the Philosopher's Stone has this base of... They say it is to erase imperfections or whatever. It can expel, let's say, the impurity that is the Ignite Moduru. So basically the girls can activate the super mode they have, which is a bummer at this point. And then we got this second problem, right? The girls cannot fight the alchemists head first because they basically get negated at the forefront. And then we get to see also the purpose of the plan of the alchemists, right? So they want to complete a ritual, more or less, to get the power of the gods, they say, and destroy, or better yet, to control the lunar ruins so they can deactivate the Curse of Baal, which is a fair try, I mean, given everything, yeah. But then we come to the real problem of it all, right? To do this whole ritual, it's come to the attention of everyone at this point that they use people as sacrifices for the energy source. So you see the problem, right? The ends do not justify the means. I mean, most of the time that's the problem in anime anyways. I'm getting kind of off track already. I don't know if you can notice that, but I don't really like this season. And I should say, right, after... oh boy, it's better if I do this first. So at this point, we get to see already some other, let's say, characters in the background. So at this point, we already saw the three main Bavarian Illuminati. Bavarian Illuminati. We have seen Adam, and at this point we have seen already the, let's say, the tool to reach this ritual they are talking about. That is Tiki. That is this auto-scotter, so it's basically like the Nephilim from the second season, but she's way more like a doll. And we have seen like Adam in the background and Tiki in the background. So Tiki is front and center. You are not going to like her. I mean, she straight up just don't care about any of the girls, just Adam. And Adam, at this point, you can already see, like I said at the beginning, you can see at the get-go that he's the bad guy. The bad guy. And that really, not that it shows yet, but it really, bad touch. I mean, it's that sensation of bad touch. I know this guy is going to stab someone in the back. I'm just waiting to see when. And also, we get to introduce on the other side, right? We get introduced to the figure that is, I don't remember his name, that is the grandfather of Tsubasa, the leader of the Kazanari family, the big boss of the whole influence the government and kind of deal without being the government really, because we are traditional family and we got connections everywhere. And to be a credit, he's not likable from the get-go. They make some real efforts to make him as unlikable as possible. He's one-dimensional as hell. He's just, oh boy, it's just awful. The worst part is that at the 5th season he plays so much of a big part though. Anyways, so the guy's terrible, right? I just wanted to say that he does not really do anything except for the later episodes. But anyways, that's not important right now. So going through really fast, episode 7, basically after they got to the explanation of why the what's the plan of the alchemist, and the fact that at this point the girls can't really deal with the philosopher's stone, we got two things, right? So basically F9 comes up with this whole research about how the little piece of Gungnir that came out of Hibiki way back in the second season, the one little piece is the key to defeating the Philosopher's Stone. It's a whole lot of bullshit they say. It comes up as not making any sense anyways, but anyways, they come up with that, and so they have this whole thing where they need to find that one little piece of Gungnir that came out of Hibiki in the middle of the ocean, because the facility was kept in was destroyed in the third season, because when Chris was there fighting one of the autoscotters, Caro autoscotters, she kind of destroyed the place. And so that's basically why they have to search the whole soil and all. Anyways, that's basically episode 7. And also, right, I need to say that at this point we see how Adam really backstabs someone right from the moment that we've been waiting at this point, that when is this guy going to backstab someone and what is he going to do, is that for one reason or another Adam becomes impatient on doing the ritual, but they have this lack of energy, so they basically needed more sacrifices. And so he suggests that Saint Germain, that is the main Bavarian Illuminati, that she chooses between Prelati and Cagliostro to sacrifice one of them, because as they have a biological perfect body, they never explain why it is biological perfect, but anyways, as they have biologically perfect bodies, they would earn a whole lot of energy just from one of their sacrifices. That being said, Saint Germain is clearly at this point not straight up against Adam, but really just going through the paces because she believes that at the end of the tunnel there is salvation. Seems familiar. I would say too much like the season 2, because Amaria and Chirabe and Kirika went through exact the same thing, but that's besides the point. So episode 8, they finally found what they call now the Fool's Stone, that is the piece of Gungnir that came out of Hibiki, and basically Elf9 has to work her ass off because she needs to implement the upgrade, let's say, so they can fight the philosophers with the philosopher's stones. And then we cut up to a part where Chris and Tsubasa are going to a restaurant with Sonia and the brother Stefan, which at this point has received some kind of really advanced prosthetic, so he can go back to his normal life, although he lost a leg. So it's more like that reconciliation kind of deal, because at the end of the day, the choice that Chris made was better at the end, because he could recover his passion in life, that is playing football, playing soccer. Let's keep it American here. But the thing is, right? So the guy can play soccer again, as most of the South Americans are portrayed in anime, anyways. Except in Haikyuu, they actually do make a point about volleyball in Brazil, but anyways, that's besides the point. So they have this reconciliation kind of deal, because also Chris discovers that Sonia is following the legacy of Chris' parents. So Chris finds out that her parents' legacy is being followed by Sonia. So Sonia is trying to keep up with the mission of bringing peace and I think education to a certain extent, with songs to these parts of the world with conflicts and all, which is pretty nice. I mean, really nice. And at this point, Cagliostro comes up, and because she so just quick explanation, right? At this point, we got to see one of the mini power-ups the girls have, that is the unison. So any two of the girls kind of come up with a song, get together in a song, and their phonic gain starts to rise exponentially, so they become more powerful singing in doubles. That being said, at this point, Prelati is heavily injured after one fight with Kirika and Hibiki, because they use this unison kind of power, and Cagliostro, in the meantime, finds out about the whole thing about being sacrificed for the ritual that Adam wants to make. So she chooses to go out on her own way, and so she goes to attack Chris and Tsubasa. And so there's this whole fight scene. There is this whole the reconciliation between Chris and her past are really emphasized in this part. And in the end, Cagliostro dies because Chris and Tsubasa can come up with the unison and activate this whole new kind of power. Let's say I would say it's near a Megazord kind of deal, almost, because there are only two people. Anyways, so after that, we get to episode 9. At this point, we are getting to the end of the season. Thank God. I mean, it's not a really bad season. I'm throwing way more shade than it is. The songs are really great, actually. I think Hibiki's song in this season is the best one in this series, but that's just my opinion. My problem is the animation really took a turn to the worst. Some parts are really, I would not say bad, but way lower quality than the other seasons, so kind of feels bad, man. Anyways, so episode 9, we get to see the second internal conflict coming up. That is the fact that Shirabe cannot do unison with anyone except Kirika, and that's Yuribate. Oh God bless Yuribate. Anyways, Shirabe has this whole complex about being lonely or alone most of the time. The only friend she ever had, more or less, was Kirika, and so she has this hard time relating to other people. And that's one side of the episode. The other side is something, and this is the problem with this season, right? Everything about the villains and the heroes are unrelated. I mean, we saw on the first season, the second season, and the third season, the villains moved according to a plan in relation to what they learned from their heroes, right? So it's back and forth between them. In this season, so just internal conflicts go down and things get done because of the internal conflicts. There is no conflict between the villain and the hero for the most part. I mean, there is attrition, right? But nothing ever comes of it, more or less. I mean, episode 9, in the briefest way I can put it, Prelati finds out that Adam wants to sacrifice her to the ritual, and she notices also that Adam has second motives, ulterior motives to the ritual. So Prelati and Cagliostro follow Saint Germain rather than Adam, but Saint Germain follows Adam, so chain of command, whatever. The thing is, Prelati and Cagliostro, knowing that Saint Germain's objective is one thing, and seeing that Adam has other plans, Prelati at this point wants to warn Saint Germain that Adam is bad news, stranger danger, right? And in the midst of trying to go to her and warn her, she's basically intercepted by Tsubasa and Shirabe, that eventually comes up with some kind of fighting her internal loneliness. I mean Shirabe's internal loneliness, because Tsubasa can relate to the fact that she also was really lonely after Kanade died. So back in the first season, when Tsubasa could not accept that Hibiki was, let's say, the successor to Kanade, she eventually grew up to not only respect her, but to accept the fact that Hibiki is part of the whole thing right now. And basically, Shirabe and Tsubasa unlock, more or less, the unison attack and end up killing Prelati, because and this is the thing, right? They never, an anime that talks so much about understanding the enemy and the reasons, Prelati in specific, when she dies, it comes out as so much of a, oh, I just found her in the middle of the street, better shoot her down. Like, absolute no real reason. I mean, she did some damage to the parts of the street she came to, right? I mean, yes, but at the same time, she was not even trying really to enter a conflict with the Symphogear at that point, and which is kind of a bummer. I think at this point, some things in this season are just unexplainable, really. And this is the thing, right? The reason I don't like actually this season so much is that some parts just become so idiotic and so against the whole thing about Symphogear itself, right? It's not the same thing. I mean, for crying out loud, like, third season, how much time did Hibiki try to convince Kaoru to stop? How much time? And then they could just come up, see an enemy, and just, whoa, shoot him down. Not the same deal, right? Anyways, so episode 10, we finally get to see the ritual, and at this point, Saint Germain has been notified that the fact that Prelati, at this point, Cagliostro was dead for, let's say, days, and when Prelati died, she decided to use her own body as a sacrifice to the ritual. But in the middle of the ritual, at this point the guys at Song noticed that they would use the energy from the ley lines, and I don't understand this part of the, let's say, I don't know, it's folklore, mythology, whatever. I don't actually understand this kind of thing, but when they kind of start the ritual, the guys from Song release some kind of, and again, I don't understand this kind of thing, kind of sealing stones around the place of the ritual, so the energy would be cut off. So they stop the ritual, more or less, but then Adam comes up and pulls the energy from the stars, because whatever, man. At this point, whatever. And then Tiki gains the power to, again, explode things with lasers, because that's the main thing, right? So episode 11, we get the crux of the whole thing, right? So they have to fight Adam for some time, because he will not let the girls actually interfere with his plan at this point. But the thing is, right, Tiki actually unlocks the power of the gods and transforms into a Final Fantasy style boss that has, again, lasers that explode things and other stuff. But then we get the best information ever. They kind of reference this a lot, because eventually they knew that they would need it, talking about the power of the gods and whatever. They need the god killer, and lo and behold, the god killer is none other than Gungnir. also known as Hibiki's Symphogear. So there's that. And basically she can punch out someone with a divine power because that's the anime we watch, because it's nice. But there's the pushback, right? So Hibiki kind of defeats this giant thing that Tiki has transformed into, but in destroying that, the divine power spreads in the air, and instead of going to Adam, that at this point is revealed to be actually another auto-scorer, more or less, it goes into Hibiki, and Hibiki is transformed into this huge cocoon between two giant buildings, and then it stays there. 3 days pass, and there's this giant cocoon pulsating like a heart, and there's just that. At this point, the UN, they say the UN are planning to use nuclear weapons in case the situation is not resolved, because they fear that it might be a global catastrophe. But also, Tsubasa's grandfather comes into the fray with his own plan, mobilizing the self-defense force, Japan's military, more or less, to shoot tank shells at it. And I mean, tank shells are really powerful, yes. But then again, after seeing what it does, do you really think that normal weapons would do anything? I mean, this is the thing, right? At some point you need to question yourself. This is not really believable, because, come on, man, have some kind of a little bit of common sense. If at this point the one weapon that you have to fight this kind of mystical kind of thing can't kill it, do you really think that normal guns will serve anything? I mean, if the Symphogears can't fight that giant cocoon, do you really think? I mean, have you seen the last, 72 hours? Did you see the giant monster that came out of that later become that? Did you see the amount of lasers that explode things? I mean, tank shells ain't going to do anything, really. If anything, it's going to get worse. And so it does, because they begin shooting the cocoon for, again, whatever reason. And from the cocoon drops out a giant, it's a more humanoid version of the one that Tick became, but it's basically the same thing. Oh, also, at this point, Adam basically just flew out into the ether, and we don't know where he is. The main problem right now is the fact that Hibiki is locked into a cocoon with divine power. Or should I say, at this point it comes out a humanoid giant thing, basically the same thing that Chiki became, but humanoid at this time rather than, I don't know, floating UFO, I don't know, whatever. At this point it comes out, it's Hibiki going berserk again, back from season 1, but this time angrier, taller, and with lasers that explode things. And at this point you can't kill the God Killer, because the God Killer has become God. So they have to re-engineer the whole logic of it all, and they come up with the following. Since the outer, more or less is this, since the outer layer that connected to Hibiki was the Symphogear because of her phonic gain, and is connected to the divine power. If we disconnect the Symphogear from Hibiki, we might get Hibiki back and destroy the divine power. So what do? Basically, Elf9, after discovering how to do linker, she also discovered how to do anti-linker, because it's basically exchangeable kind of deals. Change the molecular structure. They don't actually explain it, it's just conjecture. Anyways, they get, I think it's five or six trucks with these huge missile kind of syringes with anti-linker, so it's like barrels worth of this stuff, and they shoot at Hibiki after the other girls kind of restrain her, and then and then who else comes up in the clutch when the anti-linker does not actually work? There comes Miku and calls Hibiki, and Hibiki just snaps out of it and goes, "Oh boy, I'm destroying shit right now. Better stop." And so Hibiki just burgs out, I don't know, spills out of the body of this giant thing, gets down, and for the most part, problem solved. But then we see that the UN has dropped the intentions to use nuclear weapons, and then we see that the Tsubasa's grandfather kind of calmed down more or less. But then, for no apparent reason, the president of the United States at that point chooses to use the nuclear weapons because it's too much of a risk to humanity, and it ushers in a new world order for no apparent reason. And so there's this huge nuclear warhead coming straight to Japan from the Pacific Ocean. So at this point, Saint-Germain, who was fighting alongside the Symphogear at this point because she was against Adam, again at this point, chooses to make pay for her sims and save the day more or less. And so she flies off to intercept the nuclear warhead. And then comes out Cagliostro and Prelati out of nowhere. They explain that they faked their deaths to find something to go against Adam, but they didn't show up earlier. I mean, really? Just showing up right now? Like, right now? Couldn't you, like, show up to fight the giant Hibiki, to fight the giant Tiki? I mean, you had plenty of opportunities, but you didn't show up. Anyways, I'm getting too roped into this. Thing is, they pull off this swan song kind of deal, and they use the maximum power of the Philosopher's Stone to, like, contain the explosion of the nuclear warhead and basically, how can I say that? Basically erase the explosion, more or less. But then they sacrifice themselves in doing the swan song. It's kind of an emotional moment. I just think it's kind of illogical that they faked their deaths and just came out right now. But wait, we are on episode 12. There's 13 episodes. What's happening? Oh boy, let me tell you. Remember that I said that Adam flew into the ether and we don't know where he is? The guy just waits to the giant Hibiki kind of deal to decompose into divine energy, divine power again, and he absorbs the divine energy again. And then Hibiki comes out, destroys the thing, the whole divine power, I mean, again, and then it's kind of destroyed for good. And then Adam just says, fuck it, and goes back to his, like, original form, because he's also an auto-scorer of the Custodians. The Custodians, I will talk more about them when I discuss the 5th season, but the Custodians are this civilization that came way before the humanity, that ruled the earth, and eventually came up with the curse of Baal and the whole thing that messes up the world. They are the gods, as Adam says. So Adam becomes this. Anyways, Adam becomes this huge, monstrous kind of deal, and then the girls have to fight it, because that's actually the final boss. And also, this is the episode 13, right? This is why I said at the beginning, this season's really weird, because the final confrontation starts and ends at episode 13, more or less. In general, Symphogear has these last 2 episodes being one fight alone. but this time it's 2 fights. Anyways, so basically there's this whole battle that Hibiki has to unlock all her powers to kind of fuse all the powers of all the Symphogears the girls have, and also that she recovers the Philosopher's Stone false robe of Saint Germain, and she becomes at this point a golden Gungnir and kills Adam one shot, and then Adam says that one-liner to say that the future is doomed because I died, and the season basically ends there, more or less. We then get some kind of filler because it's Hibiki's birthday. It's a really short scene, but it has all the things we need. Kind of filler content, Yuri bait, and all the ships we could ever want. So, as always, right? Miku, Hibiki, like always. Shirabe and Kirika, like always. And Tsubasa and Maria, because that's pretty nice. So that's basically it. The season's kind of bad. About my opinion, really, let's make this quick. It's been 1 hour and something at this point in the recording. What are my opinions on this huge mess? So, as I already said in the beginning, the animation really takes a hit. It is apparent, in my humble opinion. They use a whole lot of still shots to make montages this time, rather than, at the very least, a bit of animation in the parts of the montage. They recycle a lot of frames from other seasons. It is, I would not say blatant, but if you watch it closely for all the seasons, you can see it again. You can point and say this one is taken from somewhere else. The songs, though, are still pretty good. The problems I have are animation and plot, story. The story, as I already said, I don't feel like there's much of a conflict between villain and hero. It's more internal conflicts that eventually clash up with one another. The battle of attrition normally don't end up with anything coming from either side, and more or less it's just a mess. As I already said, when Prelati dies, the ball just drops. It comes up as not Symphogear really, and more or less that's it. Story is kind of bad, animation's kind of bad. Songs are pretty good though. Songs are still pretty good. The thing is, right, they show so many of the, not villains, but bad people. Like, again, Tsubasa's grandfather, I'll talk more about him in the 5th season because he plays kind of a big role in the 5th season. Adam, again, his fault is the fact that his design is way too good. The voice actor that he did his part, I don't have the name of the voice actor here. The guy absolutely destroyed expectations. You hate the guy the moment you see him. It is something. It's a really good voice acting work. I mean, there are just so many ways that you can deliver lines and express something, right? The moment that Adam enters the stage, you know that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. He's going to backstab a lot of people, and he probably already had. And basically, I would not say copied, but they use a lot of the beats from the 2nd season. Either way, although I think Maria at that point in the 2nd season kind of grew out of the illusion of being savior of humanity. She kind of grew out of it, or admitted to not being the savior way earlier, rather than the Illuminati that followed Adam to the bitter end. But I don't know, man. That's basically it. The story's kind of messed up. The animation got messed up, in my opinion. The songs are still good. The season itself is not deplorable. I'm throwing way more shade than I actually need to, and I will admit that. But that's because at some point I almost went like, man, this season's dumb. And also because at the end of the day, when we get to the 5th season, the 5th season shows that the 4th season is more or less just a filler. More or less, because there is an add-on, a small part that actually counts from the 4th season. But at the end of the day, the 4th season is really less additive and more of parallel. I don't know how to say this in English, but it does not add a lot of things. It's just a thing that happens. Is more of a, between these two important plot points, there's this one arc here that happens. More or less a filler, but there is something that comes out of it, so it's not really a filler. But that's about it. As always, Symphogear's just good. Anyways, and that's the show. So if you like what I do, if you like the rants I give, the dumb stuff I say to the microphone, if you can, please follow, please like, please share, subscribe depending on the platform you are. Join the Discord, and again, share with your friends. I hope you stick around, and see you next time. Bye.